Good morning, Big Brother Hometowns. It is day 16 in the Big Brother Hometowns 16 house, and I am super excited to talk about all the post live night drama and everything that kind of goes down. I'm super excited as per usual. Good morning, Crispy. Good morning, Lee. Anyone else? No one else? No one else? Anyone? Nope. Okay. That's fine. I'm not mad about it. Oh, great. I have been told that apparently there is a Tom Hanks movie filming in town today. So me trying to find parking at my local Starbucks will be difficult. But besides that, I'm having a lovely day. I hope y'all are as well. I am not alone to discuss whatever is happening in the BBH16 house. He's here to answer the question that Kadri has posed to us all and that we're still pondering to this day. And that question is, who is Lee Farrell? It's Lee Farrell.
I'm just here to get my top billed IMDb credits for morning tea. So
Honestly, it's a race. It's a race between. Honestly, you probably outrank most production members in that category. I'd have to go back and I'll have to run back. I have to run back the numbers. I think Josh has you beat, but I think you have everyone.
Oh, he does.
And as he should. As he should. As he should. Ooh. All right, making sure internet's good. All right. Well, coming in to day 16. Sorry, the cats are fighting. We're coming out of live night where Elise was the HOH for all of 90 minutes, where they nominated Anwar and Veronica as pawn nominees. Anwar goes on to win the power of veto to save himself, and the backdoor Jacob plan is executed flawlessly as he is evicted 6-2. So coming in to day 16, all house guests except for Elise are playing their cup jump challenge, which is the challenge that Ian won last season to win his first ever head of household in his BBH tenure. So we were very excited to see kind of what transpired today, because there's a lot of feelings coming out of live night. I think a lot of people are realizing the sides that now exist because of the Bridget vote. And you've got a lot of people scrambling to either, one, put themselves in the middle, or two, try and divert what certain people on the other side are thinking and how they're going to target people on their current side. So very intriguing that some people took the approach of, I'm not going to try and fix the sides. I'm just going to try and hope that I'm not the target of the other side. And then some people are like, oh, no, I'm going to shake up these sides. I'm going to make sure I'm in the middle. I'm going to spread things so I'm sitting pretty and not on either side, which is a dangerous move, because if you get caught playing the middle, anyone who watches this show, anyone who knows strategy of this show, that's where you throw your nominees up from. If you're in a battle between this side and your side and the other side, you actually don't target the other side, you target the middle. Because if you just keep targeting the other side, all you're doing is creating this war between each other, and you've got these people in the middle just sit back and do nothing, and you let them ride all the way to the end. If you're smart, you actually call a truce with the other side and go, hey, we're good until we eliminate the middle. Then we can go back to fighting.
Yeah, I think that you're right there. I think the issue that I see a lot of times with that is that you can't, because you already were on different sides, you can't trust that other side to really uphold that ceasefire. And so if you're the one that takes out that person in the middle, then the other side wins power. It doesn't change the fact they're coming after you. And I think that's where not necessarily it's still a good move to go after the middle, but it's why so many people don't do it.
Exactly. It's in the words of, is it Robert Frost? I don't know. We're learning poetry this season. It's the road less taken that these people need to be taking. And I think people are getting there. They're starting to realize, hey, the bigger threats are actually in the middle. And you know why they're the bigger threats? Because they know what they're doing. They know that this cast is very emotional this season. are leaky faucets. So if they're able just to sit back in the middle and let these people, say too much, piss each other off, these people are going to target, like, there's not much that they're going to have to do. These sides are going to keep going after each other. So people are starting to realize the Caros, the Louises, the Kellys of the world who are trying to like straddle this like middle ground phase here, because we still, coming into live night, the house, like not the house targets, like the side targets have not changed. For the Olivia Jeff side, they're still targeting Veronica and Anwar. They obviously got Jacob out, so Jacob no longer can be a side target, or can be their side target. And then on the other side, so Anwar's side, Anwar, Veronica, Jimbo, etc., are still targeting some combination of Jeff, Kadri, and Olivia. So you leave those people like Louise, like Elise, like Caro, like Kelly, who get to be able to sit back for a minute knowing that they're not a target right now. So they don't have it really, I mean, minus Kelly, have really no intention to win, because they have nothing to show. They're like, I'm chilling, I'm fine. But that's the reason why you need to be taking shots at some of these people, because they're not going to try and win challenges because they think that they're sitting pretty. And if you continue to allow them to be able to do nothing, then, like, that's on all you're doing is creating this long war to take out your own allies. And then even if you win the war, you win the side war, odds are your allies are diminished a bit. And next thing you know, you look over, you're like, oh, there's this whole other group of people that's still here. Yeah. And now you're outnumbered by them.
I think what's going to happen here is that one of the sides is going to diminish quite a bit to a point where the middle becomes a side. Yeah. And it's one of those things where you don't realize it's there until it's bigger than you. And that could be really scary for the people that are either failing to recognize it or just refusing to do anything about it right now. And I think that there are both.
Yeah, there's a little bit of both. And it's also hard. I mean, even though the people are realizing that there's a middle, it's also hard because there's a lot of emotions in this season, and people, it's part of what you said earlier. It's part of like, I can't trust the other side not to take a shot back at me, but also on top of that, there's like hard-rooted emotions, how people feel about each other, which is also adding to that layer, which I think is then further convincing them that they have to take a shot at the other side versus take a shot at the middle, because the people in the middle are also just likable people. They're not people who've made issues or fusses. Like, they're just people that are likable. So that also plays a factor into it.
And it's not just that they are likable, because they are, like, especially if you're thinking about Caro, Kelly, Louise, but this is a really interesting play on pre-existing connections, that these are very smart players that came in and said, hey, maybe comp prowess is not my thing, but I can sit in the middle and let my friends be on sides, because I think of like the Caro and Jeff of it all. Like, Caro is very much letting Jeff take any kinds of heat. The Kelly and Olivia of it all. Louise is connected to Jeff, or Louise is connected to Olivia. Like, but they are sitting in the middle while they're letting some of their pre-existing connections really take more of the heat. And those people that are going to fail to take any shot at the middle, it's because of probably that pre-existing connection, because we do see people like Jeff especially fall into that trap of, I'm not going to touch them right now.
Yeah. And it's not going to happen this round. This round seems pretty cut and clear, and we'll get into it. But I'm intrigued to see as we move forward how HOHs are rationalizing their decisions. That will be very intriguing. So coming out of live night, the vote was 6-2. Everyone's very clear. Kadri was one of the. He's back. Okay, it's very clear. Kadri was one of the two votes to evict Veronica. There's no secret around that. The question is, who was the second vote? Obviously, we know that Jimbo threw a vote to try and just, cause chaos, create suspicion on other people, because, there were people that did want to save Jacob, looking at Kelly and Caro, and, throwing a vote, whatever, let's see what it does. A lot of people have said that Jeff was the other vote to evict Veronica, just because Jeff voted to evict Veronica just the round prior underneath Bridget, and he just wasn't as vocal as Olivia was. Obviously, Olivia also voted to evict Veronica in that eviction, but Olivia's been very vocal that she wanted Jacob out for a while, so no one's in any doubt that she would have evicted Jacob. But Jeff was not as vocal to everybody, so people are starting to think that Jeff's the second vote when obviously it's not, and that's what's creating a big target for him. This other side, Anwar, Veronica, Jimbo are perpetuating this idea that Jeff was that vote and are going to target him because of it. Also, Kadri and Jeff are becoming more and more the targets on that side. One, because of that. Two, obviously Kadri used the veto on Jeff in round 3, I believe. So kind of all those things culminating lead to Kadri and Jeff being the targets more so than Olivia. But also that's a factor of everybody deep down wants Olivia to go, including the middle. And that's the thing though, is like you have to find timing is everything in Big Brother. That's like the big word in this game, is like the right time to do anything, win a comp, put up the right person. When is it the right time to backdoor somebody? Like you have to factor all these timing things into it. And Anwar and Jimbo, Jimbo wants to work with Olivia, so obviously Jimbo's not going to target Olivia, but Anwar's realizing I'm the big target for the other side. And Olivia used to be the biggest target on my side. Why am I going to waste my HOH on taking out a huge target that a lot of people in this house would do for me? And that's what I think. And Anwar is starting to realize, like, that's also his pitch for, why Kadri shouldn't put him up, why Elise should not have put him up at live night, is like, that's his pitch as well. It's like, everyone wants me out, so why are you going to be the one to do it? Anyone else would do it for you. So I think he's starting to realize, if I'm pitching that to other people to save me, I have to honor that same logic if I ever win, and that means keeping Olivia safe. So if obviously that side does not win power this round, if they are to rise to power next round, I would still see Jeff and Kadri as the nominations, with Olivia as a possible renom. But honestly, Kelly is kind of creeping up there. Anwar and Kelly get on a call. Anwar and Kelly get on a call, and it doesn't go super well. We talked about it yesterday. Anwar basically was like, Kelly, you have not given me the time of day, and I wish you would. Like, I want to show you that I can be loyal to you. I want to show you that I'm not after you. And then later in the day, Anwar absolutely goes around talking to Kara about how Kelly's a huge threat and blah, 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 blah. So obviously, like, it's a bunch of horse shit. He wouldn't nominate her initially. Doesn't mean he wouldn't renominate her. And that's the thing, though, is like, this call isn't great on either side. Like, Kelly does not give Anwar much reassurance that, like, she wants to change their relationship moving forward. Like, Kelly's like, hey, I've heard all these things about you talking shit about me, how I'm a huge threat and how you want me gone. It's like, that's why I don't want to work with you. It's like, it's not that I don't like you. It's just that you're after me. So therefore, I'm not going to work with you. The thing, though, is that Kelly wants to be fluid. Kelly wants to be in the middle. Kelly wants to flip between both sides. And what's really holding her back is, one, Anwar's talking shit about her, but two, she knows that Anwar and Kara are close, and that they both keep denying how close they are, and it's really irritating her. Because it's like, if you can't even tell me the simple truth of, like, she's not even asking for them to own up to how close they are, but like for them to be completely denying that they even like talk on a regular basis is what's pissing her off. She's like, if you can't even tell me as little as like you have a decent relationship with Caro, and Kara that you have a decent relationship with Anwar, like, how am I supposed to work with you? How am I supposed to even trust even a little bit of what you're saying? Because you're hiding something that is so evident.
Yeah. Like, especially at the point where there are only 10 people left, and if Anwar's not naming Caro as someone he's after, then you probably have a decent relationship and you're probably talking. Like, this is not the point of, oh, I just don't talk to that person because they're inactive. Like, those people are gone. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting to see how they downplay that. But you see that's kind of like a classic plot you see every time, is there's always going to be a few people that really want to downplay their relationship. Most of the times they just don't do it successfully. I just don't know if, Kelly's in an interesting place where she and Anwar too are not really winning the power to do anything about it. And so they kind of just keep that information to themselves a lot of the times. The problem that I have with Anwar and what you were talking about earlier about saying, I want to show you I can keep you safe. Anwar has proven that he's really good at comps, but the comps that he's performed well in are the ones, and I think it's very different to be good at comps that are won out of necessity. Like I have to save myself or save my ally or keep myself from being put up as a renom versus winning comps to have power. And Anwar is not showing Kelly or anyone that he's really either interested or able to win those type of comps to actually do something. So I think part of the issue is that he's never been able to show his word. I don't know if he would have honored it like as the rounds go on, but that is really something that has stuck out to me, I think, especially in this round, that it's going to start showing to other players. He's not really going for the power. He's just trying to save himself when he can.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, if all things stay constant, Anwar should still be here next round. So I'm intrigued to see if, that changes. He did try to win this cup jump challenge. And obviously came nowhere near close to Kadri or dare I even say Kelly's score, dare I even say Olivia's score. He wasn't really anywhere kind of in the thick of it. But I do think he now really wants to win power. So let's see if, he can win and honor that, because that's what his kind of plan is. He said the same thing to Olivia. It's like, hey, I'm not after you. Like, give me the chance to win and show you that I'm not after you. I trust his words to Olivia more than I trust his words to Kelly. But the thing is he doesn't. It's just Anwar's personality. Anwar's just very erratic and blunt, and just energy level up to here. It doesn't comfort or soothe anybody, because Olivia and Kelly both are like, yeah, if I won, I would still nominate him, even though he's promising me that he wouldn't nominate me back, and that he wants to show me that I can trust him. Blah blah. They start to nominate him, like he's saying a lot of things right, but just like I don't know if it's like the delivery, I don't know, or if it's just all the things he said in the past that like are making these players still skeptical of him, but. The players he's promising safety to, at least initially, are not going to reciprocate it back. So I'm intrigued to see, because both Kelly and Olivia want Louise out before Anwar, but they're like, he's not making me feel like that he's being trustworthy. Like I would rather, take a round to take out Louise than take out Anwar, but
I think the issue that I'm seeing here is that he's trying. Yes, he's really being proactive, but he's not being active in terms of what he's promising people. It's just kind of like, oh, I wouldn't nominate you, but it's not really so much as I would want to include you in what I'm doing, or let's make future plans together. And so I think it's really hard to, especially once you've hit, this many rounds in the game, it's really hard to latch on to something when someone's not trying to just totally bring you into the fold, which is part of the thing, even thinking back on Bridget, and when Bridget was kind of sitting there and not really doing a lot of campaigning, one of the things I always think is a red flag in someone that is a potential ally is if you have stopped future planning with that person, that they have stopped seeing your future. And I think that is one of the things that Anwar just is not good about communicating with. You can promise safety all day, whether or not you're winning the power to do so, but you're not saying, hey, this is what I want to do, or I want to pull you into this. And I think that's where he's really fallen short.
Yeah, so intrigued to see where his story arc goes. We'll get into why I think he should be okay this round. The other the other development before we crown our head of household is this trio of Caro, Elise, and Kadri. It is not formalized by any means in terms of an alliance chat. I would imagine that comes today or tomorrow once Elise is in the middle of moving right now. So once Elise is like back home, I think that's when we see this get formalized, because all three of them will still be here next round. Which is such a weird combination of three people, because Kadri and Elise have always had a strong relationship from the jump. Elise has really liked Kadri. Obviously, they've been on a little bit of a roller coaster with, the Veronica of it all and the Spanish of it all. Kadri has since apologized and said, hey, here was why I did it. Doesn't make it right. Like, and I don't want you to feel like me spoiler alert, he puts her up again, that like me putting you up for a third time now means anything about you as a human being, and means only game, and I want to apologize. So like they moved past that. Veronica has forgiven him on a personal level, but not on a game level. But I think Elise and Kadri are getting to a better place with each other. Obviously, Elise and Caro have always had a strong relationship. They were stuck in the Ridiculous Six together, stuck with the whole like exposed party. Both were upset about the Michael vote. Obviously, both upset about the Stan vote. They've kind of been there, and obviously, Caro was one of the first people to clue Elise in. Wasn't the first, but like clued them in on what was going on. So they've always had a good relationship. It's not been like the best, but it's always been a strong one. That Elise and Caro have had with one another. And Kadri and Caro's relationship has been intriguing. Kadri never really liked Caro at the beginning, but as time has moved on, Kadri has started to really like her. And that's now where we find this trio kind of coming together. Caro's only doubts her with Kadri, and that's obviously just because they did not really bond the first couple of rounds in the game, and it's really as of late, and Caro has never really felt safe with him. But I mean, if he's going to offer an alliance, you take it. So we see this trio form. I'm intrigued to see what happens with this, because Elise and Caro, I mean, Caro said it best. I don't think Elise has been truly able to really discuss their feelings on the matter and really talk about their game, just because they've been moving. They literally they had to get out of their apartment yesterday, and they're like leaving today. Caro was like, now I'm getting added to all these freaking alliances, like, and she's like, I'm gonna have a huge internal struggle in the next couple of rounds. Yeah, that trio is very intriguing, because I think all three of them are going to have a lot of internal struggles, because they all have different allegiances, and none of them really overlap. Like Elise, is also in what have they called it? I think it's called Bernie's Babes. What's the alliance called? Yeah, Bernie's Babes, which is Elise, Caro, and Jeff. So both Elise and Caro have the Jeff connection. That trio was made a few days ago. Obviously, Elise has other connections. Caro obviously is kind of also on the other side with Anwar a bit. Kadri has Kelly. Also is in the Pussy Willows. Like, they just all have different connections that don't really overlap with one another, and they're gonna come to a point where they either have to agree that one person has to sacrifice an ally, or they're just gonna have to agree not to work with each other. So very, very intriguing. Exactly what K-Pop just said. Dominant group or crash and burn. Like, I don't know what's going to happen yet, but just that trio I would not have seen coming after the first 3 or 4 rounds, but has made sense as of late. So, but again, just more testament to how great Elise and Caro are playing, and just good on them.
I think one of the things that's really interesting for more so Caro, but also Elise, is that they are both really rising in terms of how many group chats they are in, whereas we have seen Kelly kind of at the top of that. And I have to think that the best thing for Caro and Elise is for Kelly to stay in, because at some point one of them is going to get clocked for being in all these groups, and it's going to be Kelly first. And so I think that it probably benefits the other two as long as Kelly can be there, because people are probably not going to look at the Caro and Elise in that situation as far as who's in all these chats, if Kelly is the one that is kind of out in front.
Yeah, so I'm intrigued because it's just the only person who's like super thinking long term right now is Olivia. Like Olivia sent us like who she thinks that she can beat in the end and all these things. A lot of other people have not really given the future a whole ton of thought, which is impressive. They're playing in the moment, love it. So I'm intrigued to see like because I'm in the dark. They themselves are in the dark about what their ideal plans are. So I'm intrigued to see how this all plays out because we've got a lot of late game alliances forming, and you know every day there's new distrust with one another. Like I mean, hell, Veronica and Anwar are worried about Jimbo. This Y2Gay, in my opinion, one of the strongest alliances in terms of the personal connection in this house was that trio, Magic Feet being the other. Obviously, that's dead. But Y2Gay is probably the strongest alliance now left in the game coming into day 16. But now Anwar and Veronica are worried that Jimbo and Jacob were working together, and what Jimbo told to Jacob got to Kadri because Jacob was obviously with Kadri, and Jimbo they're just worried because and they're going back to when Jimbo was head of household, when they're like, hey, we should put up Olivia or Kelly when you do your renom and not Michael. And he was like, no, not Olivia or Kelly. No, not that. And they're starting to kind of like the puzzle pieces are there. They haven't put it fully together that Jimbo is in the Pussy Willows with Kadri, Kelly, and Olivia. They haven't put it all together yet, but like they're starting to like see that Jimbo has other plans. And I think Jimbo did say in his live confessional before live night that I think he sees that he needs to work with the Pussy Willows going forward. And I think that's not just a fuck you to Anwar and Veronica. I think it's just this is the Titanic. It's sinking. This whole, like, the other side wants them out. It makes no sense for me to tie myself down to this because as much as I love them, they're falling. They're falling apart.
In fairness, though, other than Anwar and Veronica, who doesn't have other plans?
Oh, no, fair.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that's so interesting is that Anwar and Veronica are really the only ones who don't have their cards completely exposed.
Pretty much. I'd say Louise is maybe the other one. Louise has a few other things, but the few other things she has don't seem very strong, so I feel like she's being authentic with Anwar when she says she wants to go far with Anwar.
Yeah,
but like her other things aren't very strong. And I think honestly would not be shocked to see a Louise, Caro, and Anwar alliance form soon, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, Anwar and Veronica probably the only two who don't have anything other than Y2Gay. As much as Anwar has his allegiances with Caro and Louise as well, I think deep down Anwar will always prioritize Y2Gay and Veronica over anybody. And I think they're both kind of getting in their head a little bit. I mean, they're not wrong. Like they're getting all the right reads, but I think they need to. I think they're just also just a little like, I don't know, frantic just because they were both put up on the block next to each other, literally 24 hours ago, when they were nominated again on Monday night. They were really just in the same boat the previous night together underneath Elise. So I think they're just kind of trying to rationalize what's happening ahead of them. Right reads, but just also like got to keep it to yourself. Don't let Jimbo know that you're starting to distrust him. Don't let him know. So that's all. These alliances are cracking. As much as I'm like, oh, all these late game alliances, like they're cracking because everyone has different things that they have, and people are reading into anything. Like Jimbo said he was going to backdoor Kadri, and then Kadri won the veto in round 3. Kadri wins head of household, doesn't nominate Jimbo. What the fuck? People are now confused with Jeff's play here. Jeff played his guaranteed veto play, so he won that at the auction, where anytime after the nominations are set, either at live night, the top 10 or the top 9, he would be able to guarantee himself be one of the random draw players. And he used it this round here at the top 10, and people are a little confused because they're like, you feel safe with Kadri, so like you don't need to play in the veto. You don't really care. Like you're not going to be the renom, so why did you do that? So I think just a lot of paranoia and skepticism is coming out because they're like, why are all these things happening? Like none of these things are adding up.
I think it was Dan said it in the Discord, but this move makes you want to shake Jeff a little bit.
I
I
know.
just don't understand. And it was the offering. It was the, hey, I think the exact words are, hey, I could play my advantage to lock up your noms for you if you'd like.
Mhm.
Like, it's just like that confidence of, hey, I can go in and win this veto for you. And I
Yeah, it's just frustrating. It's just like, Jeff, play for your damn self. There's one winner at the end of the day. Like, if you use this power, you keep Kadri's noms the same, and Kadri goes on to win this season. If that makes you feel better, go for it. But guess what? That means you don't win this season. Like,
it leaves him so vulnerable now ahead of Live Night, where
Mhm.
people know that he at least had a lot of coins.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just, I just don't like the play at all. It was just gone about so wrong. And it's funny because while Kadri again was not the most reassuring and saying like, no worries, you're safe tonight, like that's such a weird thing to say to someone. But I just, he
Yeah.
didn't ask you to play this. He was fine with you not playing this.
Yeah. Nope. You're telling me, yeah, it's frustrating. It's very, 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 very frustrating to just watch him play for other people when he absolutely needed to keep this power. He would have been safe this round. He could have at least ensured no backdoor.
Do you think he was partially
round.
paranoid? Do you think that there was any paranoia in there, or
I don't think so. We asked him last night, and he was like, "No, he just wanted to play." And I just feel like I feel like he just was doing it out of the goodness of his heart. I don't think there's any paranoia there, but like it's funny because as soon as we announced the punishments last night, he goes, "Oh, absolutely not. I do not want to be a nominee. That's not what I want." And I'm like, "Well, you could have kept your fucking power, and you wouldn't have to have been a nominee to guarantee a veto play." But you know, who am I to say? Who am I to say?
yeah?
But it's frustrating from Jeff's perspective. By Jeff's perspective, I mean my perspective of Jeff.
And I know even if you trust the person, like I think we've talked about this in the past, when you have some sort of an advantage, while it gives you the advantage, you do seem to play a little more paranoid when you have it, because you never want to have wasted or go out not being able to use it. But I think especially like they said it, Stokes said it at the top of Jeff's veto, and that's too far ahead. But like as a student of the game, that is one comp you can like prepare for and have for kind of ahead of you, and knowing that looking at last season, it came down to just 5 moves as a difference. And
very close.
Maybe 6 moves. It was very close, but like 5 moves make all the difference if you really want to win that veto. And I mean, it's a good thing that they can't watch each other's attempts, because if they see that he just outright refused taking a punishment after saying, "Hey, I want to win this veto for you," not a great look.
Well, they're going to know because, I mean, they're going to know because one, he's not going to win. I would be. I mean, currently he's winning. Obviously, I don't think he will continue to win. But that's the thing, though, is like anybody who takes the first 2 punishments, the emojis or the dance thing, has to do them regardless if they win or not. Once Prod starts asking for some dance videos, at least from Kadri in the main chat, and then when Kadri's not using the emojis things, but like after the veto, when we announce these punishments, they're going to see that Jeff's not talking in emojis, and they're going to see that Jeff's not having to dance. They're going to see the fact that Jeff didn't take any of these punishments. So that's also a telltale sign that like you feel safe. You felt no need to take these punishments to ensure a veto win. And you felt so comfortable. You didn't need this and you wouldn't be the renom, yet you played this power. A lot of questions for Mr. Jeff. Like, as much as punishments suck, sometimes taking them, you have to take them to keep your cards close and to not show that you feel mighty comfortable. So,
and I get not taking the last, like the big one. I get not taking the big one, but there are 2 others.
They're easy.
They have no effect on your game. No effect on your game.
Like, oh, you can only text and emojis. You can call with no punishment. Literally, just wait until the end of the day to call people. Or just call people. And in the dance move one, like, come on. Like, it's a silly one. It's a stupid one. Just take it. So yeah, just questionable thoughts all around from Jeff. But we jumped a little bit ahead, but that's
Yeah,
okay. I
you're
don't
good.
really care.
You're good.
Let's get back. Kadri wins the head of household in the Cup Jump Challenge. And we got a lot of thoughts to get through. I think Kadri. Well, one, he told us, he's like, I wish y'all wouldn't have told me what jury was, which is really fucking funny to me. He's like, God damn, if you wouldn't have told me what jury was, I'd be playing this so differently. And I'm like, well, you asked what jury was. We told you. And now he's like, well, damn it, I wish you wouldn't have told me. But initially, out the gate, when he wins, he's like, I'm putting up a Veronica and a pawn, and I'm going to backdoor Anwar. I am tired of him being here, and he's a comp threat who could, when I need to win a crucial veto, could be the one that beats me. Because Anwar did beat him in OTEV, did beat him in anything you can do. Like, Anwar has bested Kadri a few times in these vetoes. Obviously, also beat him in the first one, which is the World of Wordle. All three of Anwar's veto wins have included Kadri in the competition. So Kadri's clocking. Anwar needs to go for my game. So we put up Veronica and a pawn. It's looking like Louise is going to be that pawn. And we'll backdoor Anwar. He goes around talking, obviously, to his number one at the time, which was Kelly. Also talks to Caro now that, that trio between with Caro and Elise seems to be on the up and up, and learns that both of them want Veronica out badly. And at least from Kelly and Caro's perspective, they, at least for sure from Kelly's at least, but both are clocking the fact that like she's just going to keep surviving. And Kelly has played enough of these games to know that if you leave someone like that and let them continue on in the game, eventually you're going to find yourself sitting next to her on eviction night with you getting evicted right next to her when you had the opportunity to eliminate her earlier. And I see this in a lot of games, and I've been there myself in Instinct, where you're having to have this conversation with yourself, which is how big of a threat is a pawn? Because typically a pawn is a non-threat, but there comes a point where you have to realize that being a non-threat in Big Brother in the end game is a threat, because they're taking up a spot at the final two. They're taking up a spot in the next round that you don't get to have guaranteed. So sometimes taking out the non-threat is a good move because it forces people to have to start looking at threats. And if there are bigger threats in front of you, then great, even better. But if people don't have the option to put up the easy pawn, makes people show some more cards. It just opens up a lot of possibilities. And Kelly and Kara are both clocking that. Like, hey, Veronica needs to go. I don't want to be up next to her because I'm going to go home next to her. And that kind of shakes Kadri. Because I think Kadri, because this season has proven, if you're a threat, get on out of here. You got to go. Stan, you're a threat. You got to go. Robbie, you tried to protect a threat. You got to go. Michael's too likable. He's got to go. Skip Claudia, but because she wanted to go. Bridget, a threat. She's got to go. Jacob's a threat. Got to go. Like, that's what the season has said. So when Kadri's being told for the first time, hey, being not a threat is a threat, is like, oh, interesting that y'all think that way, which kind of shakes his HOH a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think as soon as you hit the jury, like what constitute a threat really changes in some ways. And that is especially what's happened here with Veronica. I mean, looking at all of the adversity she has faced, especially if you get to a point where she's outlasted Kadri, that looks really good for her considering all of the, strife she's had with Kadri in the game. I think the issue here too is that for a moment, and I'm glad that he talked himself out of it, is that Kadri got so much tunnel vision on what he wanted to happen, even though he was never going to really get his way. And I think that just like where he didn't understand the jury phase, he doesn't really like you can sometimes have preferences as an HOH, but you don't get to decide who leaves. And I think that this was a really hard dose of that truth for him, that you have to present the people with choices, and he was not giving them a choice where he was going to get the outcome he desired.
Nope.
He then wants to put up Louise to maybe put another target on his back from another person. Not that I don't think Louise is kind of like not already onto him, but do you really want to draw that line officially?
And that's That's the big internal struggle he has. I mean, he wants Anwar gone. But he knows, hey, if I'm going to backdoor him, I need the votes to do it before I go through with this plan. Figures out, oh, I don't have the votes to do that up against at least Veronica, the pawn that I want her to be. And is learning, great. Okay, so Veronica can't be on the block at all come eviction night because she'll go home. So can I do Veronica a pawn, get the veto to be used on Veronica, then put up Anwar and have Anwar go home? But then exactly what you just said, he's realizing he doesn't have many nominee options, which is why he messaged his prod chat last night. He goes, no more HOHs for me. I'm done for a minute. Because he's realizing I don't have any options. Like, yeah, I could do Louise.
On Veronica.
Yeah, not the other person.
I mean, other than maybe Anwar, but you're wanting to backdoor Anwar. So
yeah,
like
like he's realizing he can't get what he wants, and which is a wake up call for him because his first two HOHs he got exactly what he wanted. He wanted Stan to be backdoored, and he got it, and then he wanted Bridget to go, and he got it. He got everything he wanted, and now this is the first time he's being told, no, like, you're not going to get what you want. And then he said it once we explained jury to him a few days ago. He goes, oh shit, I guess I have to start listening to my allies a bit. And I think he finally took that and was like, okay, I can't get what I want. What are my allies saying is the right move here? And they're all saying that Veronica needs to go. So I think that's where he ultimately lands. But yeah, it took him a minute to get there. Even though I was kind of waiting to see the mess that he would have created by putting up Anwar as a backdoor and then not getting it. Would have been really funny. But there was a moment he almost put up Anwar and Louise, and I'm like, oh, buddy, Louise is going to go home. You're not going to get what you want because these people are like, because Kelly and Olivia want to do it, and maybe this is the shot that they were like, you know what, hey, Anwar's like, please give me a chance, and I will give you the safety that I'm promising you. And maybe they're like, you know what, let me give you that chance. Yeah. Let me show you that I can give you that chance. And they take out Louise because they both want to do it. They both want to do it.
And I mean, I think if Kelly and Olivia are instrumental in saving Anwar and something where it's not for certain, I do think that he is the player that would repay that, especially as his, like, if he loses Veronica here or lost Louise, like, I think as his options are growing smaller, he does have more he can latch onto. And I think he would take those people up on some sort of a ceasefire for a while.
Yeah, so I mean, that this game's getting convoluted. This game is about, this game is about to get so interesting with how people become targets and how people aren't any. I'm intrigued to see where this goes moving forward. So ultimately, Kadri, realizes, hey, Anwar and Veronica are going to have to be my nominations with Veronica as the target. It seems like Louise is the renom, but honestly could see Jimbo here. Honestly could still see Jeff. Jeff, I would say, is like the third renom option, but like I think that's very unlikely. But again, he did message his prod chat. And he goes, was Jeff safety just for live night? And we said it's just for live night. He sent us the Grinch emoji of the Grinch starting to smile. So think there's a little ounce in the back there that wants him to pull out evil Kadri again. So I would say renoms in order: Louise, then Jimbo, then Jeff. But Veronica's definitely the target, and I think Veronica leaves against probably almost anybody at this point, unless she comes off the block. But the thing is what Kadri does so poorly in his HOHs is he does not comfort the people that don't feel good with him, even though he's not putting them up on the block. Like during his second HOH, half this house was so scared, and he only ended up putting up two people. He only ended up putting up Veronica and Bridget. But half the house was so scared. He never really made them feel safe. And now here we are again, where Jimbo and Louise are also hella fucking nervous about being the renom, rightfully so. But Kadri, if you don't need to make a renom, you need to leave this round with them thinking, we're good. You never were a renom option for me. But they don't feel that way because Kadri, I don't think, has realized he needs to do that because he didn't do that in his first HOH either. After he got rid of Stan, that whole ridiculous group was like, oh, I was left out of this plan. Cool, awesome. Like he's going to leave this HOH, assuming no renoms, he's still going to leave this HOH with at least Jimbo and Louise not feeling good about him. And then whatever surviving nominee stays, likely Anwar, is not going to feel good about him. So like it's just
it's so painful to watch because Kadri has had 3 HOH reigns, and whereas that makes you look very threatening from a challenge perspective in terms of someone who can win power. He has failed to use that to really lock up his relationships, because his nominations have been good from my perspective. Like, he has nominated pretty much the same people. So from an idea of locking up good relationships, you can go to most of the house right now and say, I've had 3 chances to nominate you and I haven't any of those times. And that's a really good way. I mean, not saying it in that forceful way, but like, it's such a good way to lock up those relationships and say, I've had your back 3 times. Not just once, not just twice, but 3 times. And he's not done that. He's not reassured. Like, I think I've said this more, and we see this more, but the recurring theme of this season is so many people are so bad at reassuring allies, or people at least that they want to work with in some capacity. But also, that's kind of the fun thing of watching this more pure season of a lot of people that don't have experience in a Big Brother format. So I think that the trade-off is kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we will have to see. It's just a lot more of people showing their ass a little bit when we get to it. Headphones are a little janky. There we go. Some more people showing their ass, as we lead up to the end of day 16. We have Louise earns her steal a vote advantage, which we've alluded to when Josh said there's risk and reward in anything you bid on at auction night. People thought the risk was with the covered item. The risk was really just with HOH and safety, and like you just bidding in general is always risky in sense of you're showing cards always with that. But the reward is the steal a vote advantage that's hidden behind the free lunch that we gave Louise. So Louise earns her steal a vote advantage, and quite literally, as soon as she hangs up the call with Jenny, she calls Caro and tells Caro she has this advantage, which is such an odd person to tell it to. And their relationship is something that I can't really put my finger on, but that's a lot of people's relationship, so it's not just theirs. Caro and Louise seemed to be super strong at the beginning. Like Louise, Caro and Louise seemed to be like, I'm like, love them. Caro was a little skeptical of Louise just because she's such a good player, but Louise is like, I will die for Caro. Then Caro obviously evicts Louise over Michael at round 3. And then they come back together for the Bridget vote to kind of mastermind that together. They've just been such an interesting roller coaster of a relationship. And now here we are with Louise instantly sharing her steal a vote advantage with Caro, which is odd because I'm like, I don't really know where you stack in Caro's trust rankings.
Well, I think that's exactly it. So, I mean, it makes sense that they were really strong in the beginning because they kind of have that pre-existing, like the conquest of it all relationship that a lot of these people have that game in common this season. But I think what you're seeing here right now is that Caro, unlike Louise, has the luxury of options. And I think for Louise, this is the best, maybe one of the best options Louise has, whereas Caro doesn't need Louise as much. But it's funny to think that after what we had seen in some of the early rounds, to think that they both have even made the jury and are in fairly good positions. But what a interesting, and I think such a testament to what we've seen now her social game become, that in the early games we saw everyone rushing to Kelly with information, and now it's Caro is really, we've said sponge for Caro, but Caro really is the sponge, that she's taking everything in and she's not the one leaking stuff. No. And I think these players will all be very surprised to learn just how much Caro knew of what was going on, because I don't think there's a lot that Caro doesn't know at this point. Maybe some more finite things, but important game details or things like who has an advantage, she has it.
Yeah, she knows far too much. And it goes to show you that like people are sharing a lot with her, because a lot of people deem her to be a top ally. Jeff deems her to be a top ally. Anwar deems her to be a top ally. Louise clearly deems her to be a top ally. Obviously, Kadri wants her to be closer. Elise likes Caro. Like, everybody likes Caro. The only person, and dare I say maybe 2 people who are really looking at Caro, Olivia's one and Kelly is kind of the other. But I think Kelly would put other people before Caro in her target list. But Olivia for sure wants Caro out ASAP. But Olivia knows that she likely does not have the votes to take Caro out right now, which is why she's looking at Louise.
And I think Kelly is more of a sprinkle seeds versus do it herself kind of person for Caro, which really works to Caro's advantage because Kelly's not doing that right now.
But yeah, so and then you just said it like Caro's not the one leaking, even though there was a moment where Anwar had a breakdown. So Anwar and Caro were on call. Anwar's created this fake rumor that there's a straight man's alliance in the game that would comprise of obviously basically it was just Kadri, Jeff, and Jacob basically is what he was alluding to. Completely fake, not true. And he told that to Caro. So when Kadri last night calls Anwar and Anwar's like, hey, I don't know why you like aren't giving me the chance. Like, I really like want to show that like I'm down to work with you. Yada yada yada. And Kadri's like, well then why'd you go around telling people I was in a straight man's alliance with Jacob and Jeff? And Anwar goes, oop, you weren't supposed to know about that. And at first Anwar thinks that Caro's the one that leaked to him because he's like, I only told Caro about this. Like, how dare she? But then he realized that he ultimately also told Kelly about that. And that is how Kadri knows is from Kelly. So Kelly's showing her ass a little bit. I mean, leaky faucet Kelly, slowly but surely it's going to catch up to her. And it's getting there. It's getting there. Like, little things she leaks are getting back to people. And I think people are finally putting it together that Kelly is the leaky faucet and not Bridget. Not say that Bridget also was not one, but like it's never been Bridget. It's always been Kelly.
You know, I'm still unsure where to put Kelly, but I think we could really see Kelly as that live night or pre-live night target happening here now. The more information is getting out, the writing just seems to be on the wall. I think if she can make it past that, I think that she is a finale contender. But I think that her big bottleneck this season is going to be making it past the second live night, because I think a lot of this information is going to catch up with her unless she can get out the people who will expose her.
Yep. Last couple things. Jimbo shows his ass a little bit. He gets on call with Kadri and really tries to protect Anwar and Veronica. As much as he says he wants to work with the Pussy Willows, he wants to keep Anwar and Veronica around. He would rather get rid of people that aren't in either of those alliances. So people like Louise and Elise and Jeff. He gets on call with Kadri, knows he can't push Jeff because obviously Kadri used the veto on him a few rounds ago, so doesn't think that's a great pitch. But pitches Louise and Elise as people that should go up on the block underneath Kadri's HOH, which just rubs Kadri very much the wrong way. Kadri's just kind of like laughing in this DR, being like, what is this man doing? Telling me to put up Elise and Louise. Like, bitch, you win and you do it. Like, no, I'm not doing that. So Jimbo just showing his ass a little bit more. Jimbo, please, on your hands challenge. Jimbo, you do so much better when you're not in the spotlight. Like, Jimbo's giving me very Anna tease. Came in, did an HOH that pissed off everybody by sending home Michael. And has sat back and been able to kind of just, like obviously hit the block right afterward, had his consequences for his actions. But since then, it's been hush hush, or it's been very quiet all on the Western Front for Jimbo. So like, Jimbo, shh, be quiet. Because at least in 13 and in 15, the jury does love an Anna game. They do love an Anna gameplay. I'm not saying this jury will respect it, but like at least in both times Anna has played, people would have possibly given her the vote and she might have won in those seasons. So like Jimbo, it's a winning game if you can just be quiet. Stop trying to protect Anwar and Veronica. Because you're going to lose Veronica.
Yeah, it very much reminds me of last season playing like Anwar and Veronica. I think more and more in the jury phase have like these parallels to Tommy and Carly. And I think one of the things that I was always having a hard time with was allowing myself to let them go or using them like and kind of finding that balance. Is like I wanted these allies, but I wanted Tommy and Carly, and constantly having people come and say, you gotta eventually let Tommy and Carly go. But that's where I kind of see them grouping up here, is that people are either weirdly not letting them go or failing to use them appropriately and really bring them into things. And so I'm curious to see what happens when one of them gets broken up, because last season we see, when the Carly leaves, the Tommy goes far. So I'm very interested to see what trajectory this has for an Anwar.
Yeah. Nope. Very intrigued. The last thing I gotta talk about is Olivia. As I alluded to earlier, Olivia is probably the only person who's really thinking long game right now. And I think that's just helping her kind of sit on her own hands a little bit, because she knows she's chilling this round. So to kind of like prevent her from getting in her own way, she's like taking the time that she would be maybe spending into like spiraling and being paranoid and doing other things. And she's like, let me take a step back this round and let me just think about finale. Let me think about how I can get there, who I can beat. And right now she's like, I don't think I can bring someone who's just like not a threat to the end. She's realizing that like I'm gonna have to bring someone who's gonna give me a run for my money, and that's okay. And she's landing on Elise as the person she thinks that she can beat. And it's hard to tell. I don't know. Because, again, you never know what a jury respects. I think both are playing fabulous games. But that's the thing. Will people respect the under-the-radar game that Elise is playing right now? I don't know. Time will only tell, versus, obviously, Olivia's game, which is not under the radar at all. Everyone knows Olivia's been putting her hands in a lot of things. But Olivia's looking to lock down a final 2 with Elise and kind of use Elise as a power player in her fake beef with Kelly. Olivia and Kelly learning that they're definitely still being clocked as a duo together, even though Bridget, their perceived trio, which was wild, was being pegged. And they're like, hey, we're still getting pegged as a duo. We need to like stage something to kind of separate us so we don't find ourselves on the block together. And it seems like they're going to kind of gauge Elise and try and use Elise to separate themselves a bit so they can be in the end game together. Neither wants each other at the final 2. I think that's very clear from both people's perspectives. But like, hey, if someone's willing to make a plan with you to get you to final 6, final 5, take it. So I see Olivia and Kelly. I think final 5, final 6 is their swan song together. I think that's when they start to cut each other, but they still plan to at least get to the point where they get to play in everything moving forward. Yeah. So yeah. Intrigued there as well.
I will say I've had some time to marinate on this about the Elise Live Night HOH win. And originally I was thinking, it wasn't a great move, or, winning HOH on Live Night, if that's your only or first Live Night, like how unfortunate for them that they didn't really have this opportunity to really build up and strengthen their connections. But I think in this season, where the game has been so much about leaks and saying too much that gets you in trouble, this was actually a golden moment for Elise, that they didn't have that opportunity of like everything that you can say can be used against you. It was a very quick, clean HOH, done and over. Mm-hmm. And so I'm much higher, I think, especially in this round, and seeing, the results-oriented side of it all. But I think that this was actually a really great resume builder for Elise.
And you know who Elise is giving me? It's Crystal. Yeah. Elise is like, it's playing so much like Crystal, like sitting back, just likable, like in the pre-jury. No, like besides one person who was after them, and that being Jacob, like pretty much sat back and was like, I'm not going to do much. I'm going to throw these challenges and I'm not going to win. Wins at Live Night, like wins a challenge, shows their allies, hey, I can win something. I wanted to win this. Wins in a challenge that depends on, the house not wanting to like outbid you or take you out of the challenge. Crystal won a knockout trivia comp where no one was picking her to compete because they didn't want to knock her out. Elise wins a very, social based challenge, nominates 2 of the house targets.
Who wouldn't nominate Elise first, by the way?
No,
I think that's such a great testament as well.
And then takes out someone that was a wild card and would have, maybe taken a shot at them in the future. And Crystal ends up taking out Stoner, who was a wild card, and creating these uprisings out of nowhere. it's giving me very Crystal, and now Elise is sitting back, and everyone wants to include Elise into their plans. Obviously, Jeff and Carol are now in a trio with them. Kadri and Carol are trying to get in a trio with them. Olivia wants them as their final two, trying to bring Elise into a potential 3 chat with Kelly and Olivia to discuss this fake beef. Obviously, Elise is in a trio with Louise and Kelly because they discussed the Bridget vote together. Elise is in a lot of things. And honestly, like, right now, Elise and Caro are leading the pack for me in terms of winner potential right now. But again, it comes down to comps at the end game, because as much as you are setting yourself up really well to win the game, like a Danny DeAngelis, if you can't win those crucial comps in the end and you get cut right before finale, it's game over. So
Elise and Caro final two, I think, would be a really fun fight to watch.
Because they're both playing very similar games, despite both being on the outs really early with the stand vote, have really integrated themselves beautifully. And no one, and absolutely, I mean, Elise is in a better position than Caro because no one's looking at Elise. At least Olivia and Kelly are kind of looking at Caro, but again, Olivia knows Caro can't go anytime soon. Not that she doesn't want her to, but like, the votes aren't there. They just aren't. So like, both women, or both non-men, really fucking impressing me. Super well. And I'm not surprised. Joins for 5 seconds and gets my name.
Hi, Danny.
She did. Is that the current reigning winner of Perception? Oh, it is.
It might be.
Is that? Wait, you're not the current reigning anymore of Double Cross. Also the winner of Double Cross. But yeah, Elise and Caro are just impressing me. Caro, not surprising at all. Elise is a little surprising just for the fact of that they're still here. not anything against them. Again, very Danny DeAngelis and BBH16. I'm like, these people would be stupid to let them get this far, and here we are.
And I think unlike Danny, the preseason thoughts were a lot of people recognized Elise as a threat and how they needed to do something about that with them. So that is what's mind-boggling to me. And those people who named Elise as the threat that they needed to get out, they're still here.
And like, Elise and Danny just have this mist about them. They're like, I know that I'm a threat, but like, have you thought about not taking me out? And then they just don't do it. And next thing you know, they're super integrated, sitting pretty. It's mind-boggling how Elise is. I mean, as much as I said that they're pulling a Crystal from 13, they're also pulling a Danny from 15.
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny because like, where Elise has that kind of winning the comps at the pivotal moments, like Caro, you see some parallels as well in the playing up the, like, I'm dumb, or I don't really know what's going on here. And we've seen this play from Caro before, but seeing it transition into more of a social strategy game, like, it's so interesting. But I do think like seeing that and remembering watching Crystal, in Crystal's DRs compared to how she would talk in the game, and she would talk much more as like this kind of all over the place, like just nervous, anxious, doesn't really know what's going on, when you knew full well everything Crystal was doing behind the scenes. And I feel like there's a lot of parallel between that and Caro as well. So I think holistically, like, the two of them, if they stick together and if they continue to strengthen the relationship, Elise and Caro could be an unstoppable pair to the end.
Yeah. And we'll see how much they start working together, if, depending on if Bernie's Babes continues to be a thing, or if this Kadri group forms. Elise and Caro will at least be in 2 groups together. Because they're not in the backyard against together, I don't think. I don't know. All these alliances, I'm like getting.
Where I worry for Caro is at 4.
Yeah,
because Caro, I think, will really shape up to look like a threat, and I don't have the greatest faith that Caro will be the HOH or the person making the decision of who will leave. So I worry for her if she makes to 4. If she can make it past there, if they can make it past there, I think that they are really gonna be a cool pair to watch in a finale.
Yeah, So we'll have to see. There's lots of game to be played, but today we will be finishing up our blind maze veto. We have Veronica and Anwar, pretty much back to back from about 4 to 5 Eastern. Who else is left to schedule? Louise and somebody else needs to go. I don't know. Louise, and Elise. Louise and Elise have not scheduled. Louise typically goes around 5 Eastern, and then Elise, we'll see. They're traveling back home to Vermont. They're on a train for like 10 hours today, so we're going to hope and pray that they have service. So we'll have those 4 blind mazes to compete in later today, and then we will have veto ceremony tonight, along with an eviction. We're back to our 2-day rounds, and we're in 2-day rounds till the end of this season. In about 12 days is when we wrap up this season on April 10th. I think is that Sunday. Yep, April 10th is the finale. So we're wrapping up the season about 12 days. So stick with us tonight as we send someone home.
Takes every punishment available.
Absolutely.
Including the nominee.
Absolutely. I mean, if I'm Anwar and you know how big of a house target you are, you might as well just take your spot up on the block.
Because unless you're HOH, you're going to be there anyway.
You're going to be there anyway. So you might as well just take your spot up there. And guess what? You get an automatic veto play. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. Like, it's something bad for like an Elise or a Caro who is sitting pretty and no one wants to actually nominate them. So don't put yourself up there for no reason. But Anwar, if you know, most people would nominate you anyway. Might as well just put yourself up there. So
yeah, and honestly, if you are Anwar and you take up it's a third nominee, you're also ensuring that someone else who wins power has to get additional blood on their hands when they were going to put you up anyway. And I think that is such a cool play for Anwar that you can really bring another person to your side.
Anwar and Veronica, I would be shocked if neither of them took. Both of them should be taking this.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if they don't, but time will tell. Obviously, you don't need it to win. Obviously, both Jeff and Kadri scores are very, very beatable. Insanely beatable. So we'll have to see what happens. My prediction is that Anwar will take home this veto, and we will see a potential Louise or Jimbo nomination. But we'll have to see. I mean, it's not over just yet. Obviously, if Louise is on the block, Louise does have a steal a vote if things get dicey. So I'm intrigued. This is not as, I think Veronica is likely going to be leaving tonight, but deep down, I could see Louise being in trouble as well. But it all depends on this veto and who wins it. So be with us. We have a fun, stacked day for y'all. But that's all I really have. Any final thoughts before we peace on out and I try and get parking at Starbucks despite this Tom Hanks
we're good here.
Movie. Alrighty. Well, for who is Lee Farrell, hopefully we've answered the question that everyone is wanting to know.
By the way, so
for me, for the current reigning runner-up of our series, we're peacing on out. Stick with us today for the blind maze veto, the veto ceremony, and the eviction all tonight. Until tomorrow at 10:30. Stay thirsty, my friends, and I'll catch y'all in the Discord. Bye, everyone.